What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? This is Ernie, Blerd without fear.
And I'm Maria Park from Approach the Nerd.
And we are going to be talking about, we're actually doing a comparison. We did one previously for Kyoryu Sentai Zeta Ranger and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This time we're going to be doing one for Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger versus Power Rangers Super Megaforce.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple eyes. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
Before we get started, if you want to see more awesome comic book videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click.
Now, a little caveat on this video, theoretically, Super Megaforce is kind of like the second season of Megaforce as a whole, which the first season of Megaforce actually doesn't adapt any of Gokaiger. It actually adapts Tensou Sentai Gokaiger, but that's not what we're here to talk about. There's some things from Gokaiger probably will come up because they are also a part of Super Megaforce.
Yep.
So with that said, let's talk about the differences, the top 10 differences between Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger and Power Rangers Megaforce, the super version.
There's nothing super about it.
It's super bad.
Yeah, pretty much. Man, number one difference. Gokaiger good, Megaforce and Super Megaforce bad.
There you go. Video's over. There
We're
you go.
done.
We're done.
Time to go.
Time to go. Let's get out of here. Let's go ahead and start off with the first and probably most obvious one. If you just watch Gokaiger for 2 seconds, the Gokaiger team is a group of space pirates who come from another galaxy,
Different planets in them.
completely different planets, and they are the 35th Super Sentai season. Therefore, they are the 35th Super Sentai team, and because of that, this season was a legacy season. This was a season where basically they brought back all of the previous Super Sentai teams, going all the way back to like Mask Man, Dingy Man,
Old school,
like
Bioman,
all of them. You name a season that came before the 35th season, and they made it back in
They
some.
had Sentai and Super Sentai teams.
Yeah, like it was everything.
Everything before them.
Kind of as a result of that, that meant that they relied very heavily on using the powers of all of those different Super Sentai teams. And of course also battling against a galactic empire called the Zangyack. You switch over to Power Rangers Super Megaforce, that is actually not the case. This is actually a group of high schoolers. Very grown looking high schoolers.
Don't get me started on that.
Much not saying that Mighty Morphin didn't have that same problem. Power Rangers Super Megaforce, they are basically in the middle of a war against what is called, I guess, essentially the Armada.
Yeah.
And they are basically getting a new power source, and that power source just happens to be adapted from Gokaiger. The two shows could not be more different plot-wise than you could imagine.
So this is my take on what's different about this topic specifically. Gokaiger, yes, they were pirates from another galaxy. Well, space pirates. They all have reasons for being there. They all have backstories. They're pretty much a lot of character development. Megaforce is MMPR squared. They have the same freaking dialogue that they use in MMPR, especially in the pilot episode. Now, when we get to Super Megaforce, yes, they do use the power, but the problem that I've always had is they use these same powers from shows that never premiered over here and didn't even bother naming half of them. It was like, oh, this new ninja power is great for like Die Ranger or something. And it's like, what?
Technically is kind of a one I don't think people even really think about very often, and that is Robo Knight. Robo Knight, for the most part, is not from Gokaiger, or at least the character Robo Knight is based off of does actually show up in Gokaiger because that is actually the show that character comes from. But
Unofficial Six Ranger.
and it's one of those situations where basically Robo Knight was carried over from Megaforce because of the fact, I mean, I'm assuming the character was probably the most popular thing on the show considering how bad it was. But Robo Knight, the reason why you don't see Robo Knight a whole lot in the Super Megaforce season, at least not as much as you probably did in the first season of Megaforce, is because they didn't have that much footage left. And I mean, there you go, man. I think they did actually have the suits
That's
for
why
the
they
season.
did it. They had the suits.
They had the suits, but yeah, but they didn't use as much footage to kind of back that up. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, do we really want to shoot a whole bunch of Robo Knight footage just to?
They didn't even have to have an actor in the suit at that point. They just had the suit just sitting there. Just like panned in on him and did a voiceover and just moved on.
That's really
all they really did.
That's truly all they had to do.
Nothing they had to do.
Guy is the only Terran, actually like native Earth born, like the Earth that they are actually on, born character in Gokaiger. All of the rest of them come from planets far away.
Yep.
From Earth. And now this one, he's kind of like I guess to kind of put it mildly, Guy is a fanboy. He knows everything there is to know about Super Sentai, because in this season, and I guess technically they do kind of treat this way sometimes in previous seasons, maybe, but more so in this one, all the other Super Sentai teams, they actually like exist in the same plane as this one. So everyone knows about all these other teams, but Guy is a super fan, so he could tell you, like, he could literally almost every other episode, he's like, oh my god, that's so-and-so from blah 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 blah, or that's blah 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 from there, and he knows all the little intricacies and everything. He's basically, if you think about Deku from My Hero Academia, how much he knows about heroes, that's how much Guy knows about Super Sentai.
And the Akaba Ranger too, didn't the Red Ranger have the same thing where he would just like scream out different characters' names from Sentai randomly?
Speaking of, let's talk about Counterparts. Orion is not Guy. Actually, Orion is unique in the sense, probably the one similarity that Orion has with Guy is that Orion is an alien amongst a bunch of humans.
Yep, it's completely reversed.
It's flipped.
It's a yin to yang right there.
And now, that said, that's really all you can say about Orion. Orion he was just dry toast.
Oh, do you think that when you were talking about how Guy was educating the Gokaigers, it's because they generally didn't know anything about Sentai?
No.
Like, they know they know they can transform, but they were like, what's this?
Well, yeah, that was actually a thing that I thought was very interesting about the Gokaiger characters, was just the fact that, they, for a group of people who have collected.
That's what we're going to go with.
We're going to go with collected. All these various Ranger keys, they didn't really know anything about them. No. I mean, they knew how to use them, but they didn't know the history behind them, and that's kind of where Guy came in.
Which was funny, before Guy came, they didn't know they weren't even using the same team members, so, like, they would transform, and he'd be like, no, this is not.
Like,
I said Shinkanger, I didn't say
Captain Marvelous would be using characters, he'd be using keys from, like, Goand or something like that. Yep. When, Luca would be, grabbing, maybe pull a character from like,
Hurricaneger.
From Hurricaneger.
And then he's like, I said Shinkanger. I'm like, I don't know what's going on over here.
I don't know.
Lesson
what
time.
This is.
He would be passionate about this. We are not doing it correctly.
The Gokaigers have no actual mentor figure as a whole. Technically, one of them does, and that's Captain Marvel's, but the team as a whole has no mentor figure. Whereas if you go to Power Rangers Super Megaforce, they have Gosei, which Gosei is something else entirely. Gosei is basically a protege, if you will, of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Zordon. It's even
he's a generic,
basically, which is made even funnier by the fact that they kind of imply he's more powerful than Zordon, just in the sense that he could repower all the Rangers who have been depowered in the past. Something Zordon would just be like, oh, you ain't got no powers? Oh well.
Nice.
But I actually think it's funny too, because Gosei actually doesn't exist in Goseiger. They have something called, if I'm not mistaken, it's called Headmaster in Goseiger, and it's not even exactly the same thing. And really, if you really want to think about it, Gosei in Megaforce is really just a giant version of the Goseigers, and by virtue, Megaforce's morphers. That's really all he is.
You see how enthusiastic we are about Megaforce.
Now we're getting to some of the meteor ones. This is some of the meteor ones. Like, those are softballs. These are the good ones. These are real good ones. Sid Bamick, one of my personal favorite characters, is a former mentor, best friend, and confidant of who I think
trainer.
And trainer. He actually taught him some smooth moves.
Yep.
But he is the former, all of those things to a character by the name of Joe, who is Gokai Blue. This character, he later would go on to become the Zangyack Special Duty Officer, Barazorg. And this becomes like a huge thing that takes place throughout the course of Gokaiger. It's like a huge arc that kind of surrounds this, at least in regards to Joe's character, his progression. Now, you fast forward over to Super Megaforce. This character does not exist.
No, and he really should.
He actually should have. And to be fair, he almost did. He actually almost did. Like another entry we're going to talk about here next. This character was originally hinted at in early casting notes and was referred to as Jake. But Jake ultimately was never cast and never used. Now, one interesting thing, his Barazorg form actually was used, but instead of being a special duty officer, he was known as Argus and was basically just Prince Vekar's or Vrak's or whatever his name was, bodyguard.
So Jake will go on to be the Black Ranger's name, though, right? Isn't the Black Ranger in Megaforce named Jake?
Yep.
So they're gonna have a mentor named Jake and then a Black Ranger named Jake? This is more screwed.
I don't know. Invidious is a butler in the Armada who does survive defeat by Super Megaforce, but then after that he's never seen again.
He hasn't come back.
Now in Gokaiger, this character's name is Jellisto, and he is an action commander, not just some simple butler. And more importantly, he survives his defeat by not Super Megaforce, but by Gokaiger, and he even pops up in later episodes. He even gets married.
He gets married to an older woman. She's old. She's like in her 60s.
Yeah, and it's a hilarious episode.
And they buy like a hotel or like some kind of like spa place, and then they run it together. And he's dressed in a kimono, and it's absolutely hilarious.
He even shows up in I think both of the movies that Gokaiger had come out too. So I mean, this character doesn't just disappear. He actually has an arc, and you're like, oh wow, not all of the Zangyack actually stay bad. That's interesting. The Zangyack and the Armada, though similar, they aren't exactly the same thing.
Zangyack is just gross. They do things to, when they kidnap you, like with Sid, for instance, to make Sid who he becomes later, they basically rip your body apart and make it into a machine. Kind of like if you watch Doctor Who, like they do with the Cybermen. It's absolutely disturbing.
Yeah, it's very now here's the thing: the Zangyack of Gokaiger have no connection whatsoever to, I believe it's called the Warstar, who technically come from Gokaiger. In Super Megaforce and Megaforce, because these are two connected seasons, they put these guys together because they were like, hey, we got two seasons, we're gonna take these two enemy groups who have nothing one to do with each other. You'll even notice the motif of the Warstar is mostly bugs, where the Zangyack is just different on the whole. But at the end of it all, they have nothing one to do with each other. It just gets weird. Okay, so earlier we were talking about Sid. Well, Captain Marvelous's rival, and probably one of my favorite characters from Gokaiger, even though he's a complete and total son of a bitch.
He's not he is.
He is. He's that motherfucker. Look, you remember what he did to Sally?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I thought so.
That was sad. Leave those damn monkeys alone.
But Captain Marvelous's rival, Bosco, was not adapted.
Nope.
To Super Megaforce.
Well, no, because Troy's boring too, so he can't have a rival.
He can't have a rival. No. Troy is as dry as like.
It's like watching paint dry on the wall. But you haven't even painted yet. That's how sad that is. It's just bad.
Bosco was not used. I can't remember if they used his alternate form that pops up later in the show.
Probably.
They probably used that, and I know they did use his ship. His ship was used as an escape ship for Orion, but for the most part,
and I'm pretty sure they did use it. I want to say the episode where they get put to sleep, he's in the background, but I don't know if he did a lot.
It's like I said, the Super Megaforce is wild trash, so a lot of the stuff is coming off of memory for me. Wild trash. And I had it all just in the background. The Free Joker was the ship that he used, and also, just like with Sid, he was originally in the early casting notes. He actually was listed as a character named Silas that was intended to be him, but much like with Sid, this was all dropped for whatever reason.
Because they met Troy's actor and they were like, no. Marvelous could pull it off. Troy could not.
No, he could not.
Rival? No.
Hell no.
No.
Okay, so getting back to the Zangyack, and this is something I was talking about earlier too. Prince Vekar of Super Megaforce is the older brother of the villain Vrak in the earlier season of Megaforce, but this is not the case in Gokaiger because it's two completely different seasons. They are not connected in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Even though the two characters do actually look alike.
They actually
look eerily alike, even though it's two completely different villains.
They gotta save money. They have to use the costumes.
Oh no, they repurpose those suits all
absolutely.
the time.
It's like
but I think it's funny because Vrak's counterpart, Bajira, does actually come from Gokaiger. And it's really weird. But yeah, Bajira, that's his name. That's Vrak's name in Gokaiger. But yeah, and then Commandant Wars Guild, that is the name of Prince Vrak in Gokaiger. Which he's just terrible.
He's a horrible person.
His daddy is probably worse.
Not probably.
No, he's definitely worse.
Definitely worse.
The apple don't fall far from the tree.
The tree hit him with the apples. That's daddy.
Because we talked a little bit about Troy. Troy is so boring. He is so terrible. Just so terrible they couldn't give him anything. Gokaiger had a little bit of a feather in his cap in regards to Captain Marvel. As we mentioned, was Aka Red, as in being a mentor / father figure.
And Aka Red is basically the embodiment of all the previous Red Rangers.
All the previous Red Rangers, like kind of boiled into one character. Well, they also, Captain Marvel's, because he was a man, like it was my two dads. Well, that's what he's got.
That's what he's got.
He also had Space Sheriff Gavin, which, for those who don't know, Space Sheriff Gavin comes from the Metal Hero series, which is where VR Troopers comes from. So theoretically,
and it's a very good show.
It's a very good. It's a great show, and the movies are fantastic. They've actually done even more movies recently. But one thing I found really funny about is that Troy does not have this. He has no previous Power Ranger or even character from a completely separate series that acts as like his long lost father figure, whatever.
I don't think he has a daddy.
I don't think he does. Honestly, I don't think we ever see parents.
We don't see parents. We don't hear about relatives.
No, not
really. No. I mean, they go out all the time and fly around on their version of the spaceship, and their parents don't give a crap where they are. It's just pretty sad, actually.
Good Lord.
They should flunk school.
They really should, because they're like
hardly ever there.
Unlike MMPR, they're never at school. They're almost never.
You'll see them walk out, but it's like, when did you have time to do homework? You haven't been to school in like 3 months. I don't understand.
It's like, good God.
It's all right. You're 30 in high school anyway.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yep.
All of these Super Megaforce characters are wildly different. We've talked about this for a while. They're wildly different from their They're wildly different. They're wildly different from their Gokaiger counterparts, largely because they are not adapting the Gokaiger characters. These characters are all essentially reimaginings of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers cast, where Troy is essentially Jason.
Yep,
he's just a more boring version of Jason.
A much more boring. Hooked on phonics, Jason.
Like if you took Jason from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and just said, "Hey, dude, I'm gonna need you to take this whole bottle of codeine at night for the whole time." and lead this team to victory. That is essentially what Troy is. He is basically like if you put Jason on all the codeine, like he's just codeine out of his mind.
Wooden, and like and people are always on Batwoman's actors are like, oh, you're under money. I'm like, Troy has no emotion.
Mr. Andrew Gray, we're gonna call you by your government name here. Noah was Noah Carver. He's
Black Billy.
Yeah, he's Black Billy. That's what he is. He's a black kid who is a nerd.
And for some reason, he got an upgrade in fighting skills with Super Megaforce. He was able to use a sword and stuff. I never saw him fight that well in regular.
Well, you know why? Because he was supposed to be Joe. He's supposed to be Joe, and Joe is the do dirt guy.
That man's sword skills are on point.
Yeah, because you look at it, okay, we've talked about Troy, we've talked about Noah, so basically, these characters are supposed to be Captain Marvelous and Joe, respectively, and they are arguably the best fighters on the team. I would say probably the only one who's even close to them is Luca, and that would be what is that, Gia? I believe Gia is her name.
Gia is a Yellow Ranger. Luca is her counterpart, and Gia is basically Trini.
Yeah, she's tomboy Trini. Yeah, that's really all she is.
That's what she is, but blonde and not Asian.
And then what was it? We also got what's the other one? We got
Jake.
Jake.
Black Ranger and Megaforce, but in Super Megaforce he's green. And I remember when he asked Genji why the color changed, he said, well, there's an explanation for that, and then the alarm went off, and then we never got it. So really, there was no explanation.
There was no explanation.
That's how they got around just saying, well, we merged two shows.
Yeah.
But he's supposed to be Doc from Gokaiger, which would also be, he's supposed to be Zach, but he is not Zach.
He's not Zach. He is actually...
He's not even Adam.
No. He's not even Adam. He's actually, I would even say, you actually go back to Troy, thinking about it, I would even go as far as say that Rocky is a better Red Ranger than Troy is, and I'm not even that fond of Rocky. I used to think Rocky was the worst.
I'm waiting for Hooked on Phonics videos from Troy, because that's basically all he's got. He is so boring. But then the Pink Ranger.
Oh yeah, Pink Ranger. So that's Emma Super Megaforce. And then was it Ahim?
I'm David Famil. She's from the planet of Famil, so they always say Famil.
Yeah.
But I'm is a princess. Emma, you said this. Emma is basically treated like a princess.
Yes.
And she's supposed to be off-brand Kimberly.
Yes,
which she is also not. But she is part Asian.
I would say, actually, you know what? That's her name for now. She is store-brand Kimberly.
Oh, and I just realized that. They reversed the yellow and pink ranger and Megaforce. Everything's yin and yang in a way. Because now we got a white yellow ranger and an Asian pink ranger.
Actually, which is, I thought that was weird. But anyway, hey, look, I'm not going to judge. I will.
Here?
Oh, and theoretically, if we really want to get down to it, if you don't believe us about the MMPR similarities between Super Megaforce, Megaforce and such, they even had an Ernie.
They did. Ernie, they had
that worked at a juice. It was a juice. He was at the snack bar, juice bar type guy.
Yeah, it was a smoothie bar.
It was a smoothie bar,
Yep.
And they hung
healthier.
out there. And they hung out there and literally had the exact same name. They even kind of had an Alpha 5.
Yeah.
I forget the character's name, but there was no equivalent in technically it was Navi. Navi was kind of the equivalent in Gokaiger, but they weren't the same character. Like Navi was like a clockwork bird.
Navi was awesome.
Yeah, Navi was amazing.
I don't even know if Navi had a personality in Megaforce. I don't know if they actually did anything.
No, I don't think they did anything with that.
So, it's just sad.
Yeah, and that's really, that's honestly, when you really get down to it, that is the biggest difference between the two shows. It's more of an excuse. They use the footage just to have something to use, but essentially it was a reboot of MMPR through and through.
It really was.
It is not an adaptation of Gokaiger.
This is not. Gokaiger is basically a bunch of people that help people but act like they don't give a crap. And then you got MMPR,
but they actually do give a crap.
They do. But when you ask them straight up, they're like, I didn't save you.
God, no.
Oh man, I was trying to go eat some curry. And nothing to do with you. I was eating, they hit my curry boil, and I had to take them out. You just happen to be right there.
That's really it. I mean, it's really all there is to it.
MMPR squared is what Megaforce is, only it is a really bad adaptation of MMPR, which if you look at the pilot of MMPR, that's saying a lot.
Was it Day of the Dumpster or something like that? Was that the name of the...
Yeah, they had two, because remember they had a new Trini after that. So Dewey Tang didn't come to November later.
That is true.
They had a butcher, I think Hispanic girl playing her.
Wow. now. But anyways, those are the 10 differences between Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger and Power Rangers Super Megaforce. If you have seen both of these shows, one or other of these shows, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I really don't even know if there's even like an actual like legal way to watch Gokaiger, but yeah, hey, find them. I'm sure there's ways out there. Matter of fact, you know what the theme is, pirates. So I mean, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
People upload some of the stuff on YouTube all the time. You just gotta be creative.
Hey, let's go pirates. There you go. Let us know what you think about Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger, and tell us what you think about Super Megaforce. You probably hate it. I don't know a single human being alive who actually likes it. But anyways, let us know in the comments below. And of course, as always, make sure you go check out Maria Park at Approach the Nerd. There'll be a link down below. Make sure you go check that out. Go watch our videos, like them, share them, subscribe them, and do the same here too. Make sure you do that too. Make sure you tickle that subscribe button, man. Hit all the buttons. I got mad buttons down there. Click the like button. Also, you know what? Click the join button so you can get exclusive access or early access, all that good stuff to, you get emojis for when I do live shows, when I do the Blerd Cave. You also can get early access to my videos before I release them to the general public. I'll even be doing some exclusive videos. Just saying, just throwing these things out here for you. But anyways, we love you 3000 plus ultra.